So I want to cover these stages, if I may. So the first stage is adapting and surviving. And adapting and surviving is basically we're downloading our parents' software. You know, we're downloading the files. So we've got our computer, download. I was just brought here and all of a sudden our parents are giving us all kinds of information. Our society, our culture is giving us information. We are adapting. We're just basically taking it in, downloading it into our computers. We don't even know we're downloading it. It's there, bang, bang, bang. And even before we can even think, we've taken in so much information. So much information. There's a study on suicide. And the study on suicide said that the choice of suicide was dependent upon what experience they had in childbirth. So that's interesting. So the physical impression that children would have, so if there's a forceps delivery, or if umbilical was wrapped around the neck, or if there's kind of trauma, that it was embedded in the body, and it wouldn't even, it was there, but it would somehow, they would be compelled that they were going to take their life, that they'd go back to this early imprint that we have. Now when you think about it, we can't process the information with our mind, so we have this imprint. And our body is like a sponge taking all this information in. In the adapting and surviving stage, we're just taking it in. Well, again, as I said, we're downloading all this information, and we don't even know what we're taking. Now you can imagine, in my life, I was disconnected to all these areas. To survive, I disconnected. And I've had to really put a lot of energy, work, my life, into work on connection. When we adapt and survive, and we do that continually, we end up becoming an orphan. And by that I mean is, in adapting and surviving, we often develop a false self. It's not our true self, it's a false self. It's our ego. You know, Eckhart Tolle talks about our ego, and it's our ego that we're really relating to the world. It's our mask. And when we become an orphan, I believe, is when I'm not at home. Being an orphan means I don't have a home. I'm not at home in my body. I've disconnected from my body. I'm not at home in my heart. I've disconnected. It's really hard to relate. I'm not at home with my emotions or with my voice. So I'm not at home. And when we become an orphan, we really are not at home. And that's when we move to wake-up calls. Because when you're not at home, we're really called to wake up. And I believe wake-up calls are waking us up, to awaken us physically, emotionally, mentally, in relationships, with our voice, or with our vision. That's the wake-up calls, are to wake us up to some of those aspects. I haven't been exercising. All right, wake up. So we get these wake-up calls to get us to pay attention. When I lived in Australia, there's a Banksia tree. And the Banksia tree has a nut, which is larger than a pine cone. And in this pine cone, the only way that this regenerates, the tree regenerates, is through a forest fire. No forest fire, no regeneration. Wake-up calls are like that in our life. Sometimes we need wake-up calls. I have to get my back out, see a chiropractor, and then kind of, oh wow, get my back in alignment, you know, and actually get my back out of alignment before I can start getting into alignment. And the wake-up calls are there to show us. I do believe a lot of the wake-up calls come as whispers, but because we're not paying attention, they have to come a little bit louder. They say, exercise out tomorrow, or eat nutritiously, or speak your truth, or feel, express your feelings, or hold on to your vision. It's trying to convey to us what we need to do, and if we don't pay attention, that's when the wake-up calls start getting more greater, huge, so they get hit in the head with a 2x4. When we get our wake-up calls and signposts, how many of you had wake-up calls? I mean, everybody's having wake-up calls. I mean, you know.
Been away from home.
What's that?
Been away from home.
You've been away from home. There you go. And the wake-up calls that say it's time to come back home. Right? Now, from wake-up calls, we move to awakening and accessing our GPS. Eckhart Tolle says, awakening means we become conscious of the unawakened you. We start becoming conscious that we're unawakened. And I kind of think what happens in the awakening stage is that I've been sitting and my leg has fallen asleep. And then I put my leg out and never having to get pins and needles. I says, God, does this hurt? Sometimes when we start waking up, hurts because we're more conscious and we start looking at our life. and say, oh my God, this is my life. I'm in a relationship. Whoa, I'm not getting my needs met. Or I need to change things. Or I need to be speaking myself more. I need to convey what's really going on with me. And the awakening also leads us to make a commitment to, hey, I want to be committed to go back home. Any of these can bring us back home, but the awakening is to bring us back home. Now, when we said awakening, then we move to healing wounds and breaking free. The law of attraction says that which you focus on expands, does it not? Now, there's another principle here. That which you don't focus on also expands. If it's calling you, if you're getting wake-up calls and you don't focus on it, it's going to expand. If you're in your home and you have a blocked toilet and you're saying, I smell something here, but let's close the door because I don't want to focus on that. That's only going to expand. I'm going to get some flowers and incense. That's going to expand. Yes, doesn't this place smell beautiful? But after a while, there's some stench going on, you know? What's going on? Sometimes, if we're called, we've got to focus on it, because if we don't focus on it, it's going to expand in our life. And all of us have wounds. All of us have blockages in our life. We're meant to clear those blockages out. When we clear those blockages out, wow, that's when our GPS starts really get online. When we're clearing these blockages in our life, that's when we're really getting information downloaded to you. You wake up in the morning and you're downloaded information. Wow, holy cow, this is incredible. I'm supposed to do this. Wow, I gotta go see the chiropractor. I gotta see Joan. I gotta talk with Jonathan, or eat some chocolate, or whatever, you know? And this here, I think in my profession, the psychotherapy profession, we've tended to focus too much on the wound. So it's like, let's go into the toilet and let's swim and let's spend a lot of time in the toilet and process the toilet. And some therapists, you know, let's just spend a lot of time. Let's see what it feels like to be in the toilet, you know? Wow, is it bad? Yeah. We don't have to do that, but we do have to go into the toilet so we can flush it out. We do have to flush out. And if we don't, then we're moving into denial and avoidance. So part of this here is we really do have to realize that all of us have been wounded in a certain place. All of us have been told messages that we don't want to hear. My sister lives in Irvine, and we laugh about some of the things that my mother has taught us. And if I was reading a book, my mother would say, don't just sit there, do something. Oh, geez, I thought I was doing something. I guess I'm not doing something. Mind you, I was just reading comic books. But from her mind, well, you know, we got to do something. And so I would have to sneak to read. You know, don't just do something. I mean, don't just sit there, do something. We have all these messages embedded in the thing. I remember my mother, I came in one day and I caught her watching television. And she looked at me and she jumped up, ran to the ironing board and started ironing. It's like she could not, you know, she couldn't let other people see that she was relaxing. Of course, these were messages she picked up from her family, from her generation. We're in a unique time here because we're able to really clear out not only our generation's work, but previous generations' work. We have our previous generations that are really embedded in our lives, and we're doing a lot of clearing out, not just here. There's been a lot of toilets that have been stuck up that we're kind of flushing it all out. We're trying to flush out the whole system. From here, then we move to strengthening the heartbeat of connection, and that is about developing time, mastering your life, and with discipline. Discipline comes from the word disciple. You're really asked to be a disciple of your true self.